It's been 8 years since the Pulse nightclub attack, and we are back to square one with a memorial.
It's not the only thing left undone for victims' families and survivors. They want answers about conditions at Pulse leading up to and on June 12, 2016.
That's because for years there have been accusations that conditions at Pulse delayed first responders from making rescues and even kept victims from finding a safe path out of the club.
Many impacted by Pulse tell us until they get some clear answers, they won't support anything happening here. It's why I've spent the last 3 years digging into the claims.
Codes are there for a reason. Codes are there for safety.
Yes.
Unpermitted renovations, blocked exits. Those are some of the accusations that have surrounded the conditions at Pulse on June 12, 2016 for years. Rumors that leave many survivors and family members of victims to wonder, had things been done differently before?
They don't think there's any doors back there.
And during the attack, would more of their friends and loved ones have survived the mass shooting? WESH 2 Investigates has spent years examining documents, pictures, and video, some you've never seen before, to try to get some answers. The first claim, a lack of updated floor plans slowed down rescue efforts.
When I was running through the building, I was looking for a fire plan, escape plan, which I couldn't find. I'd like to give us a layout.
That's Orlando Police Officer Timothy Stanley in his interview for the internal affairs investigation by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, obtained by WESH 2 in a public records request. The night of the massacre, as officers responded, they couldn't find floor plans for Pulse.
I'm having to explain the rooms, what's where in the back of the building, how it's laid out. I had just a wet piece of paper because I was sweating, trying to draw this layout.
All right, just sit tight. We'll try to get to that door. I'm trying to figure it out now with the manager.
Officer Stanley was left to draw a floor plan as a Pulse employee described the inside of the club, so first responders could figure out where victims were hiding, many of them dying. This lack of floor plans is something survivors and victims' families insist created chaos and wasted valuable time the morning of June 12th.
Para yo estar tranquila.
Unable to hold back her tears, the mother of Luis Omar Ocasio Capo explains what survivors told her about her son's death.
Y yo siempre pensé que mi hijo no sufrió, y mi hijo sí sufrió. Desangrándose en el club, a lo que lo fueron a rescatar.
Carmen Capo traveled to Orlando from Puerto Rico to talk to WESH 2. She says after being shot, her son laid in the arms of a stranger at Pulse, bleeding. Jose Diaz Ubiles was that stranger. Jose says they were in a kitchenette behind the main bar. It had 2 doors, the one they went in.
And there was another door, but that door was blocked. By me going back, I would say it was like a refrigerator, but it was huge, like it was blocking. But I knew because I could see the outside of it.
So there was a refrigerator in front of the door?
Yes, blocking that door.
Did you try to move it?
I tried, but that's when I noticed I had a shot wound on my right shoulder. Because when I tried to push, I couldn't, and that's when I was like, why can't I, move it? I'm like, I'm a big person. I know I can move this, but I didn't have the strength for it.
Jose says on the other side of that fridge was a glass door leading to the outside patio. This is the only picture of that room released to WESH 2. It does not show the door Jose talks about. When police did get to them, roughly 30 minutes after the shooting started, Luis was alive.
Y mi hijo tuvo todo el tiempo vivo hasta en el hospital. Mi hijo murió desangrado en el hospital. Mi hijo llegó vivo al hospital. Mi hijo falleció en el hospital.
Carmen believes had Luis been able to get out that door or been rescued sooner, he might still be alive.
Yeah, there's a car in the parking lot with a bomb in it.
Around 3 a.m., rescue efforts came to a halt because the shooter claimed he had a bomb. This trapped many victims in the club with the gunman for hours. It wasn't until 5:08 a.m. that the SWAT team used its armored vehicle to break into what they thought was a bathroom where victims, including Tiara Parker and her cousin Akira Murray, were trapped and hiding. But without accurate floor plans, SWAT breached the wrong spot. After a second SWAT attempt, officers got the cousins out of the club. It was too late for Akira.
I was really angry. Because at the time, my cousin was only shot in her arms. Not being able to get in there in time really took a lot of lives of wonderful people.
Through records requests, WESH 2 Investigates learned the city also couldn't find floor plans. It took until noon, 10 hours after the shooting began, for Fire Marshal Tammy Hughes to send a picture of floor plans from 2004 to then Fire Chief Roderick Williams. That afternoon, Timothy Johnson, manager for the City Permitting Division, emailed his colleagues the most recent floor plans the city had, dated 2010. In an internal email, he states they were the last floor plans received from Pulse's owners. However, WESH 2 Investigates has now determined those plans were not an accurate reflection of the layout in 2016.
There is an office up there.
Upstairs?
Yes.
Where at? Right over
Through that door. See it right there. Body. Police officer head! Police officer head!
Heads! Keep them up! Come down the ladder!
That second floor Officer Tyler Olson talks about in his body camera footage isn't indicated anywhere on the floor plans released to WESH 2, but you can clearly see the office exists in pictures taken by law enforcement after the shooting. We asked Pulse's owners about the lack of updated floor plans on record with the city, but because of ongoing litigation by victims' families, they were unable to answer our questions. When we asked the city about the floor plans, Cassandra Bell, a city spokesperson, wrote, "When building owners make modifications to their layouts or floor plans, they should go through the permitting process with the city, and any records associated with those would be what we would have on file." The next claim: the city let Pulse slide on some code issues. This is a timeline of every permitting, code enforcement, planning, fire, and life safety action taken at 1912 South Orange Avenue since 1998. It was prepared by the city in 2016, 1 week after the attack, quote, in anticipation of imminent civil or criminal litigation, and never before released to the media until WESH 2 Investigates tracked it down. This document and others obtained by WESH 2 show, beginning in 2004, questions raised by the city to Pulse's owners, namely Rosario Poma. The first surrounds the club's permit to be open for business, called a conditional use permit. Pulse was approved as a restaurant martini bar, but the city flagged it was instead operating as a nightclub. In an email dated May 2004, City Planning Director Dean Grandin writes to Rosario Poma and says the planning office may have to revisit the permit, or, as an alternative, he tells Poma to initiate a new application for a conditional use permit for a nightclub use which would stand alone, separate and apart from your existing approved conditional use permit. The issue comes up again in 2010 when Orlando Chief Planner Jason Burton creates a list of issues at Pulse, including the conditional use permit. Burton writes in an email to Planning Director Grandin, who flagged this issue in 2004, that Pulse is operating as a nightclub and a new conditional use permit is needed. These items are then talked about for months among city staff, including meetings with Rosario Poma, where options of next steps are presented. It's unclear if any of those were taken, and at the time of the shooting, Pulse still had the same conditional use permit. We asked the city why Pulse never had to update its permit. Cassandra Bell, again via email, said, "At the time of the incident and during these discussions, we did not have a classification for nightclubs. At the time of the incident, the city characterized businesses such as Pulse as eating and drinking establishments." So why did city officials in charge of code and ordinances keep insisting a change was necessary? Bell acknowledged that records do show there were inconsistencies with the CUP. However, it's important you understand these inconsistencies were not related to life safety issues. The timeline document also delves into overcrowding, with the Pomas ordered to use a clicker at the door to meet fire code. While survivors have talked about the club feeling packed the night of the shooting, we have no way to prove it was over the 300-person capacity. The timeline document also notes unpermitted fences. The Poma spokesperson insists they filed for a permit for the fence, but neither they or the city can produce it. According to the city, even if work was completed without a permit, that doesn't mean that work was done improperly or that it created a safety issue. We asked to speak with city employees who for years had these back and forth discussions with the Pomas. We figured they could explain why issues that appear to linger at Pulse for years don't have a resolution. Every interview request was denied. The reason? Cassandra Bell writes, the planners who engaged in those conversations 13 to 19 years ago are no longer with the city, so I am unable to speak with them or on their behalf.
But WESH 2 has verified at least 3 employees heavily involved in Pulse's permitting between 2004 and 2010 do still work for the city. And when I asked to speak with them directly, I was denied.
When WESH 2 asked why the timeline document was created by the city, we were told to review and investigate fire inspection, code enforcement, and permitting records related to the building. These records demonstrate the Pulse facility was safe, that it met occupancy, fire, and related requirements. We found no pattern of critical life safety violations.
Life safety violations are what get businesses shut down, and the city says Pulse didn't have any. But survivors still accuse the city at the very least of negligence, and some accuse the city of lying. Which brings us to their third claim. Blocked exits created escape route confusion.
12 hours after the worst mass shooting in U.S. history, these texts between Orlando's Fire Marshal Tammy Hughes and Orlando Fire Chief Roderick Williams, quote, "Code enforcement is here," showed me a picture where the club owner had blocked the exit with a Coke machine. He has pictures.
That is an excerpt from a story WESH 2 did in 2016, just 2 weeks after the shooting. Those text messages also say, when they ask for our records, TJ will have to answer some tough questions. Why he did not follow NFPA codes and allow for this person to violate them. It's in our report. These text messages about a blocked exit have for years fueled debate about escape routes out of the club. After those texts became public in 2016, an attorney for the Pumas told us there is a door to the outside that is not used by anyone, whether they be employees or patrons. That door is in a room behind the bar where patrons are not allowed. That door is not an exit door. And we reported it because based on the floor plans provided to us then, the area in question looks like a storage closet. But crime scene photos show that door doesn't exist. So with the revelation the floor plan was wrong, we got to work piecing together what the scene looked like that night. This service alley behind Pulse does exist. It's visible in video from 2016, and it's still at the property today. We asked the city about this alley and the blocked exits in the 2016 text messages. In email exchanges back then and this year, we got the same word-for-word response from the city. Quote, "We have no indication that exits were blocked. OFD conducts regular exit checks to ensure businesses have the proper life safety measures in place. After a review of fire records, there is no pattern of exits being blocked inside Pulse. This includes the most recent exit check." This year, they added to the response, quote, "Further, we are unaware of any documentation that demonstrates the Coke machine was blocking an exit before the incident."
What the city didn't address was another question we asked about specific body camera video showing that Coke machine at the end of the service alley.
This video was not released to the public. WESH 2 obtained it through a public records request. It shows Deputy Frank Tagler trying to get into that service alley. But right there, you can see a Coke-branded refrigerator, for years referred to as a Coke machine, blocking what floor plans show as an open walkway. Officer Stanley also mentioned it in his FDLE interview.
There was a Coke machine or something there that we had to pull it away to be ready for a team to go in.
What you can also see in the body camera video is a piece of broken fencing on the ground, and you can see it from Chopper 2 the following day. Is it fencing that possibly enclosed the service alley? Is it a gate? WESH 2 has been unable to find anyone who can tell us if this alley was open, closed in by fencing, or had a gated door. And those text messages about an exit blocked by a Coke machine, it's never been revealed which exit Orlando fire officials were talking about. As for the alley, several survivors have talked about getting trapped there. In 2016, WESH 2 spoke with one of the security guards working at Pulse that night. He detailed for us how the fenced alley had a door which he opened and helped people escape through.
I bring them out the back, which is only for employees.
Yeah.
I bring them out the back. When you go out the back there's a gate in the back here. Now, we don't keep that door locked. We don't keep it locked. It's never locked. There's a lock there. There's a latch. All you have to do is push it and the door opens. So All I did was pop it open, everyone follows me.
That fence door is visible here on Chopper 2 video taken midday after the shooting. Last July, survivors and victims' families who have spoken to WESH 2 over the years made a new plea for their concerns to be heard. They filed reports with Orlando police hoping to have their claims of blocked exits investigated. According to the city building code, Pulse needed 2 exits to be in compliance. There are at least 6 doors leading out of Pulse. 2 doors led to the service alley behind the club, the main entrance, and a set of double doors not far away led to the parking lot, and 2 doors to the fenced-in patio. FBI photos show on the patio there was a gate to the street. It had latches on the inside, at the top and bottom. Between the lobby and main entrance, there were beaded curtains, which survivor Tony Marrero says made it hard to see the way out.
We were trying to reach the door, but there were some curtains there, beaded curtains or whatever, and they were so they're heavy, so everybody got confused, and you can't see what's coming in. So as you see everybody running, confusion, chaos, so that's why I ended up in the VIP, so I ended up back inside the club.
Marrero was shot 15 times in the arm and back before he was finally able to crawl out.
I literally crawled, between glass and other, people that were on the floor that I didn't know if they were alive or dead. I was just grabbing onto them and dragging myself because my arm was completely shattered. I yelled at the cop at the door, "Please come save me." And all he told me, these words I will remember for the rest of my life, "I can't go to you right now."
We checked with the Orlando Police Department for an update on this case. All they would tell us is this is an ongoing investigation. Survivors and victims' families say all of this paints a troubling picture of the city of Orlando's actions. It's why so many are struggling as the city now takes charge of Pulse's future.